Welcome back, everybody. I'm doing my happy dance because Mignon, she just leaves those vibes. How y'all doing, people? Welcome back. Listen, you guys know I love an author. I love to talk to people who write books. And I thought, why not bring someone on the show tonight who can crystallize and really speak to what we're trying to accomplish this month as we celebrate women, extraordinary women, ordinary women, women who are just great because they are. Mignon Francois is an example of that, right? Most of you have never heard her story, but you'll never forget it. How about that? My next guest, Stephana Colbert, I don't know how to say Gilbert, Stephana Colbert is here tonight, and she's written an important book, Ordinary, Extraordinary African-American Women, We Mature. She's here tonight, and I want to talk to her about this phenomenon that Mignon sort of walked us through. Welcome to the show tonight, Ms. Stephana Colbert.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure. So before I get to the book, right? Because I meander. That's just, I don't know, my thing. So we're going to get to the book. But there's some juicy questions I want to ask you before I get to the book. Here's my first one. All right, here it is. How old were you when you first realized you were amazing?
Oh, probably about 4.
I love it. And tell me what happened that allowed you to know it.
Well, that's, it really is my parents, because what they instilled in me, I have 4 siblings, and what they instilled in us is that we can do anything. And kind of as a result, I believed that. And I believed it when I was 4. So when I went to grade school, I just felt like I could do whatever anybody else could do. And I think that's the point at which I would not have characterized it, of course, at 4 as amazing. But, I think by the nature of your question says, at what point did you think you were okay? And I think that's at the point at which I did. And it really is the point at which I really could know who I was.
No, I think that's a wonderful answer. And respond to this after I say it. I actually wish everybody had a similar experience by the time they were 4 years old. I think most of us discover the fact that we are amazing far later than life or God would originally have us to do.
And part of it is because we don't necessarily. So Mignon is a perfect example of somebody I want 4-year-olds to see. I want 4-year-olds. She was talking to me before about, going and reading to kids and stuff like that, and wearing her chef's top and that kind of thing, and how engaged they were. I want 4-year-olds to see her. And that's the reason why these books are important, but it's also the reason why your show is so important. I mean, who would have thought that Mignon was who she was unless you put her on?
Yeah,
and she's and without sounding she's an ordinary, extraordinary African-American woman. She just is. And one of the things I noticed when you were interviewing her is your excitement in the interview. And it's what I always feel whenever I interview the women for our books. You just get excited because they tell you stuff you don't necessarily always expect to hear. But it's affirming, it's uplifting. You really want to celebrate them. And so Mignon is one of those women that you really want to celebrate.
No, absolutely. And as are you, by the way, because I think anybody, who has committed her life work to collecting the stories and telling the stories of ordinary, extraordinary women is an extraordinary undertaking herself. And, this I got to take a break, but one of the goals that I have for this show is that we have substantive conversation. We meet extraordinary people, because too much of Black television is how big somebody's ass is, and who's dating who, and who's getting divorced, and who's clapping back on that person. And, and that's fine, because, I get it. That is a part of the culture, and Black culture is complex and it's rich. But there ought to be a little space for us to say, that's excellent, that's wonderful, that's amazing. And that's what Mignon gave us tonight. And that's
Absolutely.
what you're giving us in this book. Let me take this break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you one more question about your journey. And then we're going to jump into this book and we're going to wrap ourselves with the pages. All right, we'll be right back.
Nick Cannon has gifted 3 women for Valentine's Day.
Hollywood Unlocked Uncensored.
We all know that Nick is the parent of a set of twins with Mariah Carey, also with the 2 kids by Brittany Bell. But now it looks like there's going to be a full Brady brunch because he now has 2 more kids on the way by another girl.
Every Friday.
As long as all the ladies are happy, I don't think he's doing anything wrong.
They did say that his penis could have been the 7th Power Ranger.
On Fox Soul.
But again, it's all allegedly. I don't know.
Fox Soul's Screening Room.
I'm gonna keep this real, bro. It ain't too many brothers that you run into that do the sci-fi films.
Was it a UFO?
If you are really drawn to a genre where you don't see a lot of filmmakers like yourself, I think just go for it. That'll be unique, and I think uniqueness is what really stands out.
Featuring the next wave of Black filmmakers.
Just get a drink after work. Sometimes just a drink.
Maybe.
Maybe's good.
Maybe's maybe.
The whole story is really about facing your fears when you hit a wall and sticking with it.
Hear the stories behind the stories.
You did everything from writing, directing, producing, and editing. Girl, that's a lot of jobs.
I didn't have a budget, so it's like, I'm gonna have to do it myself.
Rolling around trying not to get caught by you.
Streaming Thursday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on Fox Soul.
Who is that?
I'm Stevie.
No one's talking to you.
Problematic rapper Boozy is catching backlash.
TGIF.
We need to put a gag order and close the casket on Boosie.
Serving up Friday night tea.
I actually am a fan of his. He said, let me tell you something. I ain't scared of nothing. I came out my mama.
That ain't deep. That's dumb.
Oh, man.
I feel stupid even listening to that.
Ow.
On Fox Soul.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm talking to Stephana Colbert. And Miss Stephana, let me ask you this, because I asked Mignon a similar question, and I just feel morally obligated to ask you one in the same vein. Tell me about a moment in your life that you will absolutely never forget.
A moment in my life. Well, I will tell you the moment I will never forget is probably, well, I was about to start one way, but I guess I'll go this way. I think, when we published the first book, and it was a book that celebrated African American.
What was the other way you were gonna go, though? Yeah, hold on. What was the other way?
Well, there's just so many different ways I could go. Am I getting out of that question? No, I think that.
Yes, you are. You're wiggling.
But when we published our first book, and I think that's because it was a dream realized, and it was one of those things that sometimes you have things that you want to do. I always wanted to be a writer. And so when I saw the first book published, it was just an affirming moment. It was emotional for me, and I'm a relatively unemotional person. And so I think that was it. The other piece has to do with my family and just being with them and realizing the family I came from. That is extraordinary to me.
How so? What makes the knowledge of that extraordinary?
Well, because my parents somehow, both of whom are passed now, created these 5 kids that are as close today as I guess any group of people, any family could be. And that's special to me, because I think I see other people lose their families or have issues and that kind of thing. And we have issues, of course, but by and large, we just are so close. And that is such a blessing to me. And it's the grace of my parents. I guess that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I love both of those answers. I mean, I love the fact that you were moved by seeing your book published. But I think I like the second answer better. I think not better is not the right word, but I think that answer helps me understand you more. It helps me understand, what animates you, what roots you, what grounds and drives you. and to speak of the success of your sibling connections as the grace accorded or the grace established by your parents is an amazing way to think about that. I mean, I wish a lot of people who are siblings would understand their connections with each other based upon how they show or manifest the grace of their parents. That is an achievement. But I could go on and on, but I'm not. Let's get to the book. Let's change gears because you've given us this great work, Ordinary, Extraordinary African American Women. And I hear the conflict in the title. We have the book up. Good. I hear the conflict in the title between that which is ordinary and extraordinary are usually put in contradistinction to each other. They're usually not in conversation. Why did you put these two things in conversation?
Primarily, I think because African American women go through life feeling like their lives are ordinary. We're just doing ordinary things. We raise our families. We support our communities. We're the backbone. We're backbone of our communities. We are PTA presidents. We are community activists. But this is just ordinary life for most African American women. One of the things that struck me when I was first starting these books is some of the women that I approached wanted to decline. All were hesitant. I will say that. Some of them wanted to decline, and when I'd ask why, they said, well, I haven't done anything. But as Mignon, and I will bring back your earlier guest, as Mignon demonstrates, what appears to be ordinary is absolutely extraordinary. And so for me, ordinary African-American women are extraordinary in so many different ways. The problem is we don't get to see them. We don't get to see us. We don't get to control our narrative. And I think the most important thing is looking at it from a positive perspective. Don't focus on the stereotypes or who we are not. Focus on who we are. And that is what these stories do. I think you look at challenge and the challenges that we all face. But in looking at that, what we also realize is we overcome them. There's no obstacle that African-American women won't try to move forward from. There's no obstacle we can't overcome. Mignon had $5.
Literally.
She had $5.
Literally.
And turned it into 600 cupcakes. And so, I just applaud that, just as I applaud the stories in the book. We have women who have raised autistic children. We have women who were abandoned. We have women who were pretty much cast aside as not being worthy in society. And we have women who just had the struggle. One of the ladies in this book is a grandmother. I met her when I was going to the post office every day. And something about her struck me. And I approached her at one point and I said, I'm doing this book. I'd like to, I'd like to include your story. And she said, well, I don't know. And so then she told me about raising her grandchildren. So many African-American women, grandmothers, raise their grandchildren, but who talks about it? Who showcases them? Who shows the light on them? Where do they get their spotlight?
Who honors that practice as something sacred? Yeah. And
they don't do it they do it without being pushed, prodded. They say, this is what as she said, I didn't want my grandchildren in the system. And so she said, I didn't want somebody else raising them, so I raised them. Those are the extra. And so, it can be somebody who is a college professor. It can also be somebody who is a postal worker. It doesn't matter. It is just the idea that all African-American women have stories to tell. And it's time we begin to tell those stories and take control of our own narrative.
No, I think it's absolutely wonderful to hear you honoring the dignity of simplicity, right? The absolute sublime ways that ordinary people engage in sacred practices, the sacred practice of being a wife, the sacred practice of being an entrepreneur, the sacred practice of being a mother and a grandmother, the sacred practice of being a woman, the sacred practice of being a man. We are engaging and we are standing on sacred ground over and over and over again, but because the world does not honor it, we don't consider it sacred, but it is. And your book does that. When we come back, I want to talk more about this book. I want to ask you how you chose these 12 women. And then I know in the subtitle, I think the subtitle is We Mature. Is that right?
As We Mature.
We mature. As we mature. Yes, there we go. Correct me. And I want to talk to you about what you think maturity is all about. Yes. We'll be right back. This is good people. This is good people.
Problems.
He don't know how to save money.
She loves to nag.
I have a serious problem.
Who wants to hear them? I do. Yes or no, did you break the lamp intentionally?
I did not care for it in the way that I should have.
Oh, wow. In the streets, we call it squash and beef.
She said yes.
Stop right there. Were you lying?
I would call it alternative facts.
So here we go. Mediation is about to begin.
The Mediator with Ice-T. Weekdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Right here on Fox Soul.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner! Go?
Excellent. Soccer is fun. Yeah, I saw you guys out there. We're the family.
Yeah!
Oh, I thought you were on my team. Wait.
That brought you The Masked Singer.
Welcome to Game of Talents.
Comes an all-new talent show guessing game.
Can you crack our clues to figure out someone's extraordinary talent before they actually perform?
Hosted by Wayne Brady.
Show us your talent! Thank you for that.
Game of Talents premieres March 10th after The Masked Singer on Fox.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm talking to Miss Stephana Colbert. And so let me ask you this. I mentioned on the way out that I wanted to talk to you about maturity. As we mature is part of the subtitle of the book. What do you mean by that? And why was that so important to label it at the outset?
Well, there's two reasons behind it. The first is that the women in this age group, the women in this book are between the ages of 45 and 69. And so part of as we mature is we've lived long enough to have had experiences and to have done things, made mistakes, fallen down and gotten up. We've had that. And so in a sense, we've had a chance to mature. The first book, just as an aside, this is a series of books. And so we did a first one, Ordinary Extraordinary African American Women as the Elders, and that was women over 70. So I wanted to start with women who had wisdom. And so to me, over 70 was wisdom. 45 to 69, we are maturing. We haven't reached wisdom yet, but we are maturing. There will be a third and a fourth book, 25 to 44, and that will be the millennials, and that's pretty much the title. And then the final book, 12 to 24, is As We Begin.
Yeah.
And so the idea is there is a path that we follow based upon our age to some extent and how we mature. And all of our stories, even the 12-year-old, there's some dynamic 12-year-olds out there right now. And those are stories that also need to be told because we are not, we don't want to look at us in a very myopic way. We want to look at us with the sense of the diversity that we bring to the table.
Tell me how you decide on your subject. I think this book, if I got it correct, I think this book has 12 women in it.
That's correct.
How did you decide that these are going to be the 12 I write about?
Well, it's number of different things. Some people I knew, and I knew their stories. I had met them. Some people I read about, I've read something about them, or there's an article, or some people, some of the ladies, somebody recommended to me. And as I said, the story that with the lady in the post office, she was somebody in the post office. There's also a psychotherapist in here, and she was my psychotherapist. And that's why I brought her to the table. And I brought her in part because African Americans tend not to really want to take care of our mental health. And I had a terrible experience when I lived in Philly, and somebody referred me to her, and it was helpful. I was in a bad place, and it got me out of it. And so I think that I choose people based upon, in part, what I think the issues that we faced, but also, again, the name Ordinary Extraordinary. I think it's so important to embrace all of us, not just those who have, I mean, I think it's wonderful. I think it's dynamic that Audra Day won a Golden Globe last night. But I think it's so important for us to also know the names, the women whose names we don't hear every day, whose names we don't see, who don't necessarily get the accolades and the attention, whether that be entertainment, political, or otherwise. That, but those are the women who are the backbone of our community, who are the backbone of who we are as a people.
Well, I'll see you a point and raise you a point and say that I think it's great that Ms. Day got her award last night, and we should celebrate that. But no more and no less than we celebrate our mothers and our grandmothers. That's and exactly our aunts, right? Because they have my mother, the woman who adopted and saved me, had a 6th grade education, came up from South Carolina, and bought her own home in New York City, and she did it with the salary of a seamstress and taking care of other people's kids. That's extraordinary.
Absolutely. That's you've made the point. That's exactly it. And it's not, and we have to applaud your mother as much as we applaud Audra Day. And that is something that I think we haven't done enough of, because we're not guided by, we don't control our narrative. We have to control our narrative. And if we do, then we'll tell those stories. We'll tell the story of your mother. We'll tell the story of Mignon. We'll tell the story of some of the ladies in these books. And we will all benefit for it, right? We will all know more about our history and our culture and who we are and who we should celebrate and how we should celebrate and how often we should celebrate who we are.
Yes, I agree with that. I have literally, I think maybe a minute left. But give me 30 seconds of some common themes or common lessons that you got from all the lives of these women.
One of the common themes is faith. It permeates throughout this book, and frankly, the first book as well. It'll be interesting to see how it intersects.
That next book, maybe not so much, but keep going.
Well, and that'll be an interesting thing, because I'm not gonna, obviously, I'm not, I won't exclude people because that faith doesn't exist, but it's certainly, in my opinion, is a common theme that has allowed, the women in the book who have had challenges, who have had obstacles, to move forward, and that is absolutely one of the things that they have relied on. It's interesting that it was one of the things that Mignon talked about a great deal. It's certainly one of the things that I have relied on. I think the desire to uplift our community, to make us better, is another constant theme among all the women. It's not just my personal problem. So the lady with the African-American woman with the autistic son didn't just want to make it good for her son. She wanted to make it better for all children in that who have that as a challenge. And so I think it's a matter of saying, okay, it's not just me, it's me and my community.
Yeah, Stephana, I'm gonna have to leave it there, but I absolutely think that this is an important book. Very quickly, tell everybody where they can get the book.
The book we can get it at our website, Jewel Jordan Publishing. And you will be able to find that on Facebook, the link on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and again, www.jeweljordanpublishing.com.
All
you
right,
can also get it
I'm
on.
gonna have to leave it there. I'm way over time. I'm way over time.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
It's fine. They y'all know where to get the book. Listen, people, thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope you were inspired. Be good to each other. I love you.
Thank you.